Hi, I'm Dr. Vonda Wright, and this is Hot for Your Health. As I age, I can tell you that sometimes I look at myself and say, oh my God, what is happening to me? In this episode of Hot for Your Health, our expert panel talks about how we can reinvent ourselves at 30, 40, 50, 60, and beyond. We live in an ever-changing body, and we can always reinvent who we are.
The reason why I'm here is I've gone through several redefinitions in my life. I started out as a social worker / retail shoe person. I couldn't afford my shoes on my social work salary, so I had to sell shoes in order to buy my shoes, and that's sort of what happened. And I did the combination of the two, and sometimes I was doing social work while I was selling shoes and whatnot. Anyway, then for a while I took a small career break, and I was home with my kids while my husband built his career. You've heard that story before. And at some point I decided I couldn't do that anymore. And I became what I guess most people would say a serial entrepreneur. I had a product idea that I ended up inventing and licensed, and now it's being sold at Bed Bath & Beyond. Through that process, I started to keep an online blog about the journey. The product is called The Chase. It's an organizational tool for your bras. Many of us wear the molded cup bras, and we stick them in the drawer, and the cups compress, and they get all wrinkly, and then our boobs look wrinkly when we put the bra on. So it's a solution for that. So you can get it at Bed Bath & Beyond. But anyway, I kept an online journal of that, and at first I thought my mom was just reading it, but turns out I had 10,000 plus readers a month. And I also then branded that. I created the blog Back in Groove Mom about raising a family and running a business at the same time, and work-life balance and the lack thereof. And in the middle of that, I also realized that in all my time now sitting in front of a computer rather than, running around with toddlers, my body was changing, my hormones were different, I was gaining weight, I was getting older, everything was not in the same place it was, when I was in my 20s. And I started running actually under Vonda's direction and became a half marathon runner. So I've had a few of these transitions, and I'm excited to be here today to talk about everything from hormones and food and nutrition and not remaining stagnant in one place in our lives in any decade that we are. And I'll let my panel introduce themselves.
Thank you, Rachel. Good morning, everyone. So excited to see so many of you all here. What a fabulous time. My name is Darieth Chisolm. I might be somewhat familiar to you if you ever watched Channel 11 News. Spent 20 years there as a television news anchor, retired back in September to continue running my fitness studio, which is called Full Body Fitness Club. I am proud and happy to say that I sold it on Friday to two of my instructors, but what a fabulous time, really encouraging people to transform their workout and awaken their spirit. Full Body has been open for about 3.5 years, and it's a fun, unique fitness studio with lots of aerial-based workouts, pole dance, Zumba, so a very fun place. And I was really inspired to do that about 3.5 years ago. As a runner, I'd been spending many years running, and I knew that I needed to find a different way to work out. And so pole dancing became one of the fun things to do, along with aerial yoga and silk dance to really build the core and the arms. And it really became a fun adventure for me. This panel, I think, today in our discussion is very interesting in that, that's all I've been doing is reinventing myself. At some point, maybe I'll find myself. But over the last few years, physically doing that, I found that working out was just tremendous. I turned that into a business. I now have a video podcast show about women in business and the way that they are, women and men in business, and the way that they are inspiring one another. It's called Hustle and Heart TV. So we'll probably talk a little bit more about that. But I do want to congratulate Rachel because when we met about maybe 2 or 3 years ago and had coffee, she's such a fabulous woman. And she shared with me that she had this secret that she was getting ready to launch a business. And it's so great to know that I can, well, I don't necessarily need to keep them from being too wrinkled, but at least I've got a solution for my bras. Congratulations on that. I just think that's incredible. And I'm excited about being here. I'm sure we're going to have some fun conversation.
Hi, my name's Samantha Montgomery. I'm a registered dietitian with Giant Eagle. If you look at your programs, just like the rest of the world, we are flexible and ever-changing. Caroline Passerrello is not here this afternoon. She had a meeting that she had to attend, so here I am. I'm a registered dietitian at Giant Eagle. I'm not at the corporate office, which is where we typically see dietitians at supermarkets. Giant Eagle is very unique. I'm actually at a retail store, so I'm at the grocery store at your beck and call. I'm down in Peters Township. In Western Pennsylvania, we do have 9 dietitians that are in store to provide education in aisles, because I know we all spend a significant amount of our time at the grocery store staring at the aisles saying, oh my gosh, when did 17 brands of ketchup become the norm, right? So now it's a great opportunity, because I'm in there with the food, can give you guys the education and kind of go through the muck that might be in some of the aisles of the store. So I'm excited to talk to you guys today.
Hi, welcome everyone, and thank you for coming. I'm really excited to talk with you today. My name is Dr. Lauren Loya, and I am the owner and medical director of the Hormone Center. We have offices in Southside and Cranberry, and also medical director of the prediabetes centers here in Pittsburgh. And I have gone through several reinventions in medicine. My original background in training is in family practice, and over time, teaching and educating at residency programs, realized that primarily women were being underserved in medicine, because so many complaints and concerns were being dismissed, and people were being put on medications to treat problems caused by other medications. And I realized through the years that there had to be a better way of doing this. So I kind of went out and got different training and did a lot of research on my own to find out how to help women primarily balance hormones. We're the Hormone Center, but also to use that as a platform to balance themselves, to make it easier to make the bigger life changes like fitness and nutrition and stress management. So hopefully we'll get into a lot of that today as we start our discussion.
The federal health insurance marketplace is now open. That means you're free to shop for the health plan that's right for you. UPMC Health Plan has some of the most affordable plans on the marketplace. And they all give you full in-network access to UPMC, plus other doctors and hospitals in your community. Visit upmchealthplan.com or call 1-855-297-UPMC to learn why so many people have chosen UPMC Health Plan. Enroll today.
And we're going to have a question and answer at the end, but if it's something that's really pertains to what we're talking about, don't hesitate to raise your hand and interject and get your question in. And I'm actually going to start with Dr. Loya at the end. As I was telling her on our way down, exactly 2 weeks ago, I turned the big 4-0, and my hormones yeah, are all out of whack. Just like I woke up one morning, and that was, I think, really my biggest change. I mean, other than looking for wrinkles in the mirror, I definitely, my emotions, my feelings, my energy level, the way my fitness is affecting my body, everything has changed, I want to say, in the last 6 months. I've really noticed something going on. I don't know if it's for the good or the bad or whatnot. So I think as perimenopausal and menopausal women, hormones is a big topic. And so we're going to turn the mic over to Dr. Loya. And the first question is, why is hormone balance so important at the different stages and ages? And why should we be balanced as opposed to imbalanced?
So that's a big question that I could probably sit here and talk about all day. But just to kind of give a big overview of hormones, there are 3 main hormone systems in the body that act like, legs on a 3-legged table. It's the thyroid, which controls our baseline energy and metabolism. There are the adrenal glands that control our response to stress. They make cortisol. If you ever heard of that on TV, it makes, brings all your belly fat when you have too much of it. And there are our sex hormones that come from the ovaries, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And what I've seen through the years, whether a woman is in her 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, is the most problems come symptomatically, not when those hormone levels are necessarily high or low, but when they are out of balance. So they all must be in balance with each other, or the stool falls, the three-legged table falls, if any one of them is out of balance. And so one of the things that we find hormone balance important for is, although I talked about the general functions of those systems, every cell in the body has receptors for every single hormone. So when we talk about estrogen and progesterone, it doesn't just affect, vaginal dryness and breast development and sexual function, but there are receptors in the eyes for estrogen. There are receptors in the hair cells for estrogen. There are receptors in muscle tissue and joints. So, as we talk about things that we can do nutritionally and exercise, fitness-wise, to improve the body, it's very hard to make those changes if the body's breaking down over time as hormone levels are fluctuating and changing. So, so I think we'll get a little bit more specifically into some of the decade-by-decade changes, but that's kind of a general overview. And what I want you to take away is it's important for the hormones to be in balance and at the right levels for you. Not the right levels for some lab range, but for each individual person. And hormone therapy is about individualized medicine.
So in talking about that, obviously hormones and whether they're in balance or not affects weight gain. So something Samantha and I had talked about before we came was we all want to know how we can affect our hormones and weight gain and water retention, and a solution to that is some anti-inflammatory foods. So Samantha is going to share some of those solutions with us.
Newsflash, food is medicine, okay? What you eat will directly impact how your body acts, how you feel, your sleep, your various functions of your body, okay? So when you see that commercial for the Pedialyte with the little kids that's running around on the soccer field and they're the donuts, okay? That's us too. What we eat is directly indicative of how our body is going to perform. So if we put junk in, don't expect the optimal results that I know all of us do want, okay? So when we think about the anti-inflammatory foods, the biggest diet, and I say diet because it is a diet, the Mediterranean diet. I think that that's something that if you haven't been familiar with or you're not entirely wrapped around yet, plant-based. The more plants that we can consume, so our fruits, our vegetables, our whole grains, versus things that are animal-based, so less dairy products, less processed meats, processed foods in general, more fishes versus red meats. Those are going to be indicative of making sure that our body is not producing any of those inflammatory signals. You hear a lot about omega-3 fatty acids. Yes, we need omega-3 fatty acids, but we need to have the right balance of omega-3s and omega-6s in our bodies. Our omega-6 fatty acids are typically found in those red meats. Omega-3s are fish, flax seeds, chia seeds, which is a new functional food that's out there. Also have to consider your walnuts, canola oil are all going to be high in omega-3s, which help to decrease the inflammatory markers in our body. Don't forget about hydration. The majority of our body is water. If we don't give it water, we can't expect those cells to do what they're supposed to. So I think another thing that we forget as we age is even if we're not thirsty, our body needs to be consuming a certain quantity of water. For women, if we think about a water bottle, plastic water bottle, we need about 4 to 10 of those a day, depending on what stage of our life we're in, okay? Now, we do get water from some of our fruits and our vegetables, and yes, it's important to make sure that we're getting that plain water, and we can enhance it. Making our food fun and sexy is also very important, so adding things to our waters, like our wonderful hosts here have in the back, they have cucumber water, lemon water, adding fruits and flavors to that water to give it some pizzazz is going to make it a little bit easier to get that large quantity in every day.
So we'll come back in a little bit for some more traditional hormone type therapies and avoiding it or not avoiding it. But I wanted to speak a little bit with Darieth now about, and Darieth, as she told you, has had several transformations and redefinitions, and I assume will continue to evolve as her life moves forward, about the emotional aspect and not remaining stagnant. And, you know, what we did in our 20s is not necessarily where we see ourselves going in our 30s, 40s, and 50s and beyond. And how do we motivate ourselves to not stay, you know, set in a certain mindset, but to keep looking forward and learning where our careers are going and moving our lives forward in that nature? And I'd like you to talk a little bit about your experience and what you would recommend. I know you've always looked at what the next trend is and how you can turn what you're doing into that. And that also affects us, because I think when we're feeling really good about ourselves, it obviously improves our health when we feel satiated and satisfied with our career.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important that as you're trying to balance the hormones, the body through food and through exercise, that we're also doing that with our minds, but also our soul and our intention. And when we feel full in that aspect, we're much happier, right? That's the bliss that this entire event is around. And finding that, I would think, is our ultimate search, because it never ends, because we're always looking for ways to grow and expand. And whether you choose to do that through career choices or starting new businesses or finding, deeper levels of yourself in terms of, meditating or prayerful ways, it's important to do that. You asked, how do you, whether it's in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s, well, things change. And if we choose to look at trends, or if we choose to look at things that may interest us and follow it without being fearful, we have an opportunity to grow. Often we pull back, especially as we get older. We're trying to keep everything together. We're trying to, just keep everything that we have moving in one direction. And we are a bit afraid to step out and get out of the box and choose something different. Well, I think it's important to do that because it just keeps our mind and our soul in balance. We don't want to be the same people we were 10 years ago. Too much in life has changed. So why don't we do that? Why don't we dream bigger? Why don't we find other things that interest us that we can either get support from through friends or through mentoring? I happen to do that, I think, as a serialpreneur. It's funny, years ago, that term, I think, turned people off. But the reality is that for some people, finding new businesses or expanding the businesses that we have in other directions really breathes life into who we are. I've been fortunate to be able to do that outside of, spending 20 years on television. I've owned businesses for many years. I enjoy that. I enjoy the service of giving to others. I find that is it's the thing that gets me up in the morning. I'm happy to put my feet on the floor and get to work, making something happen, making my dreams come true, making the dreams of someone else. So when I was asked to talk on this panel, I could have easily talked a lot about fitness and how this certainly plays in the conversations that my two partners here can talk about. But I'm glad that I at least had the opportunity to just have you think about, how can I expand who I am? How can I find new interest, whether it is in business or maybe personal interest? How can I get out of my box or out of my shell and really grow to the next level? As we get older, if we don't do more of that, we will shrink back. Just like we have issues with hormones or cells or anything, pulling in. Our skin starts to age, right? Things just start to happen. This is a time in life where we have to push bigger. We have to play bigger. We have to find ways to challenge ourselves even more, or we will get old. And with that, those desires that we carry in our heart and in our mind will fold up as well.
Yeah, I just want to add to what you say about fear. And I think that relates to everything we're talking about today. Fear of not going to see a doctor or a nutritionist or a specialist because our body may be feeling one way or another. What Vonda said, she put off her mammogram. Fear, her life was too busy. She feared change. We cannot fear making decisions for ourselves that lead to our physical or mental well-being. So I think that's, really important what you touched on. So that's just my 2 cents. But going back now to Dr. Loya regarding the hormones. So We were also chatting on the way down here about myself and my mother. I'm an only child, and my mom, by 6:30 in the morning, I've already had 13, little tidbits about what I need to do with my day from my mother. It's either texts or emails or phone calls, whatever way she can get in touch with me, she's going to let me know. Even though I still turned 42 weeks ago, she's still letting me know. So yesterday she said to me, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, change, redefinition, career-wise, fitness-wise, hormonal-wise. She said, well, make sure you ask about your insane coffee consumption while you're at the panel. So, and I think that probably many of us in this room, with how busy our lives are, and I hate to use the word busy, but we are busy with spouses and partners and jobs and careers and homes and children and commitments, taking care of older parents. And I spend a lot of my days searching out energy sources, often which is a caffeine boost. So, and I'm sure it does affect my mood. And so we'll talk about that.
Thank you so much for joining me this week for this episode of Hot for Your Health. You are a powerful force in your own health, and I'm excited that you took the time this Thursday to learn more from our nation's authorities in health. I hope that you subscribe so that you don't miss one single episode. Join us next week for Hot for Your Health, and for more information, find it at womenshealthconversations.com.